Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. It's kind of getting to be mid-December and I realized I haven't done any holiday kind of things. So today I'm going to do three different simple holiday pieces. One's going to be a ring, one's going to be some earrings, and one is going to be a pendant that's based off of a snowman that I did for earrings a long time ago. So I think they'll all turn out pretty cool. I did some bezels in advance to save time since we're doing three projects. Um, but we'll assemble them together here. So I think it shouldn't be too hard, but it should be fun, and hopefully there'll be some whimsical pieces that come out of it. Before we get too far in, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters. They have formed a really nice community over there that I really enjoy interacting with. I pick their brains all the time. They pick each other's brains. It's a really nice place where we can exchange ideas and information. They also provide me with financial support by being a member over there, and I do appreciate both aspects of their support. So thank you so much for that. The other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 25,400 subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you for that. I love the nice comments I get from you. It's nice when you tell me about things that I've done to help with your metalsmithing. I like to know that I'm doing at least a little bit of good. So thanks for letting me know those things. And I do really appreciate your financial support as well. The buy me a coffees, the super thanks, buying my merch, or buying my ebooks, which we're working on 2025s, so it should be available shortly after the first of the year if you want to get the third one of the series. All right, well, let's get started on these three projects. So this is one of my design idea sketchbooks that you can get on the merch store. This one has a useful gauge inches to millimeters chart on the back, which I use pretty frequently. I've just about filled this one up here, so I'm going to have to break out another one. I have different models over there with different information on the outside. So check those out. The real feature for me is the dot matrix in the background, because I'm not terribly good at drawing stuff, so it's nice to be able to have something that can help guide me a little bit. I keep track of every project I make anymore in here, so it's really kind of a nice way to have a record of what you've done, and you can go back and see how you did things, because I don't know about you, but anymore I can't remember everything that I've made, even in the past couple of years. So. But get yourself one or two of those. Here's what I had in mind today. So let's see, I'm going to dump out some stuff here. I said I did a little pre-making of a few components since we're doing three things. So I was going to make a little reindeer ring here. I found a little kind of head-shaped piece of Unakite that's green for Christmas, right? Yeah. With a little bit of pink in it, sort of reddish. And really, since I made the bezel already, it's not going to be too hard to do. If you want to learn how to make just a standard bezel, I'll put a link to a video up there. Attached to that, I'm going to cut out some little kind of stylized antlers that aren't very pokey and pretty short, and mount them on the outside of this bezel. I used a little bit thicker sheet for the back. I'm going to use even thicker sheet for this, and then we'll put a little half-round band on there. I have some. I was going to use 8 gauge, but I found a little piece of 6 gauge. It's about the right size, I think. So that's 4.2-ish millimeters wide. 18 gauge sheet, which I'm making the antlers out of, is 1 millimeter. 22 gauge sheet I made the back out of, which is 0.66 millimeters, if I remember right. And the bezel around the outside here is fine silver bezel, 3/16 inch tall, which is 4.76 millimeters. And it's 26 gauge, which is 0.41 millimeters, I believe. So that's the materials you need for that one. Second, we're going to do some little bow earrings. I thought I made a couple of little square step bezels. I could see you wearing those to a holiday party, all flashy and holiday-ish. So we're going to make a little fake kind of ribbon. I think I'll use 14 gauge square wire, and I'll flatten it out with a rolling mill. And then we'll attach these to it and put a post on the back. So that's my plan. This third one is, I made a pair of earrings out of little silver balls with a brass hat and a brass scarf for a pair of earrings a long time ago. And I actually made a little short about it if you want to watch the short. I'm going to do a bigger version of it here. I'm going to use a couple of silver discs. These are 22 gauge, which is 0.66 millimeters. I'm going to dome those. We'll solder them together. I may cut a little bit out of one of them so they solder a little bit closer together. Not sure though. And then I'm going to cut the top off, and we're going to use, I knocked out a piece of 18 gauge brass we'll use for the rim for his hat. But I want to make his hat sort of three-dimensional since we're making his head and his body three-dimensional. So we're going to maybe cut a semicircle of it. I guess that'd be what you'd call it. And then we'll make a curved little top hat like that with a lid on top of it, and we'll solder that to that, and then we'll have a three-dimensional hat. At least that's my plan. I pre-made a bail just because it's just kind of a standard bail I use for a lot of stuff. And we'll just add a little jump ring up top, probably 18 gauge round or something. And that's my plan so far. So I think we'll start by cutting out some antlers, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece of 18 gauge sheet that I found that was a cutoff from something else. I'm going to cut it in half, and then I'll double layer it and kind of super glue it together, and then I'm going to trace this with some little notebook paper. And we'll just cut them both at the same time and just flip one of them over. So that's always easier if you're trying to get two things identical. Even if I don't get it exactly the shape, they'll at least be the same on either side, at least theoretically. So let me grab some of that paper to trace with. All right, let's make sure they're nice and flat. If you're interested in the stuff that I use, like my torch and my soldering thing, I'll put that information right here for you. I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue here. Hopefully that'll hold that together well enough. I like this antler better than the other one, so I'm going to darken him a little bit, so it's easier to see through this paper. If I was smart, I'd invest in some actual tracing paper. These are going to be a little catchy on clothing, so they may be the kind of ring you'd wear to a Christmas party or something, I suppose. You probably wouldn't want to wear something like this all the time, because it might catch on everything. But it'll be fun and whimsical, hopefully. I'm just going to glue that on there. I'm going to wrap a little tape around this just to make sure we have a little extra. I'd hate to be cutting partway through and then have that. I don't think it will, but it's not that hard to pull pieces of metal apart that are glued together like that sometimes. So just to be safe, let's add a little tape here. That way we can avoid any unexpected happenings. Okay, I'm going to drill a starter hole somewhere along the way here so I'm not starting right from the edge. That usually works better, so I'll be right back and we can start sawing. Okay, I cut a little hole in there. Started in that. This is a 00. I usually use 00s if I can. I may have to put a new one in though. This one's been used, but it might be hard to get tight. It's got a bit of a curve. I'll give it a shot and see. This one will likely break quickly. There we go. We'll just clean it up a little bit with the file and get them ready to solder. Okay, I got things pulled apart and everything. So now I'm just going to cut a little bit of solder and turn this around. I don't want to jiggle those too much. Cut myself a little bit more solder. Okay, I do something called pick soldering, where I pick up a little bit of solder on the soldering pick, heat the piece up to the flow temperature, and then just touch it where it goes. It's a really convenient way to deliver solder where you want it, so if you're interested, I have a good video right there about it. Check that out. Pick soldering is a great way to increase your abilities as a metalsmith. Personal opinion. Okay, let's just make a silver band now and solder that to that, as long as these are on there well. That's pretty good. How about we make about a size 8.5. This would be a good ring to wear with your ugly sweater to your office Christmas party, if you have one of those. I remember going to those when I was both a teacher and other things. Give you bonus points if you put in the comments why I just pushed that way past it like that and then pulled it back before I got these ready to solder. There's a very specific reason I do that. Don't be tipping over on me. Okay, this is one of those situations where as a beginner I would have really enjoyed having one of these miter vise jigs, but I didn't know about them years ago. So I'm going to, right where the solder joint is here, you might even be able to do this without adding any solder, but this is the central point right there. The biggest problem I had when I was doing this without one of these was I would file it at a slight angle, and then it would be hard to get the band to sit on top of the bezel. When you do it with that, it's pretty balanced. So let's do this. I'm use a magnesia block on this one, just so my antlers don't fall off. Nobody wants their antlers to fall off. What would the other reindeer say? Okay, I'll let that pickle. We'll get it started on the next project. Okay, so let's make a ribbon. Cut this off the end here. File it flat. I think I'm going to use my veil making pliers to do this. I was going to do this all in one piece originally, but I think it's going to be easier to do it this way and produce a better result. So I'm going to cut that off about right there. Okay, now that I got those cut, I'm going to actually bend these so they twist on the ends in the same direction. I don't want to overlap them like that. Those look pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and solder those together, at least each one separately together. I use pick soldering pretty much constantly. You don't necessarily have to do that, but this kind of stuff. Okay, I just marked this one about right there. I'm going to cut that off, file it flat, and do it kind of straight. And then we'll do this one the same. Get pretty close to the same distance. cut a couple of pieces about, oh, I don't know. I need a couple of ribbons coming out like this. So maybe about, cut them a little longer than I probably need. And then I want to file an angle and solder these two together. There's probably enough solder there, but I'm going to pick up a little more. I think, let's make sure that's on there. That looks like it's on there pretty good. I'm going to take the rest of this stuff. I need something that's going to go around that little part there. Like that. Alright, let's see if we can solder that on. Probably going to cut some of that off and back. What are you doing going in there for? Starting to look like a ribbon, sort of. Alright, so let's cut off the excess of that stuff. Need that. Maybe even file it a little bit. I'm going to cut these off. And I'm going to file a little notch into the end of each of these to make them look like a cut ribbon. We need to add a ring here. There's going to be a ring. There's already a ring on the bezel that I made earlier, and it's closed. So we need to have an open ring here that we can solder shut after we get them attached. And so I'm going to put the solder joint down, and we'll just solder it. You could do smaller rings if you want to. I just kind of wanted a big one so it hung below the ribbon pretty well. Last thing we need to do to the upper part of the earring is put a post on. I'm going to cut a little bit off and then ball up the end. And then I'm going to file it flat. We'll flux this, pick up some off the pad there, and then just plop it where we want it to go, in theory. After you polish these, you're going to want to twist that wire a few times to harden it, because it's gotten really annealed by being soldered that way. Alright, so where did I put that on? Let's hook this on here now. I'm just going to put a little easy paste on it right there. Alright, so I'm going to make another one off camera, and then we'll start the third project. Alright, time for the snowman. And like I said, got these two discs we can dome, so let me grab my dapping block. Shall we dap a little bit? A little therapeutic pounding is never bad for you. That's a pretty good size. Let's do this one now. I'm going to go with that. I think I'm just going to final a little bit out of this so it has more of a bit of a curve going there. Alright, as long as those fit together, let's solder them together. That looks pretty good. Suppose you could make a three-layer snowman. That's what we used to always do when I was a kid, as far as making actual snowmen. I don't care too much about sloppiness on this solder joint because I'm going to be putting a little ribbon of brass around there. But we need to make his hat too, so I need to grab the piece of brass I had. If you look at it, I want it to taper inwards a little bit, like kind of a beat up top hat. So I think I'm going to try and get kind of a little bit of a taper in the piece that I'm going to cut here. So I cut off the top a little bit, the bottom. Oh, the top, I think. No, the bottom. Filed it flat, and then I'm going to solder it on there. putting the pieces of solder behind the hat because it'll be a silver solder joint and it'll be less visible if we kind of do any kind of mess back there. Now I just need a little piece to solder onto the top, and then we can trim it off and we'll have a little hat. And we'll trim off the stuff that's even with the back. Let's cool it off and see if it's on there. Well, it didn't fall off. That's a good sign. I think that's on. Okay, I'm going to cut off everything on the back and trim this off on the front, so I'll be right back. Okay, we're almost there. We got the hat trimmed off. I think that turned out pretty good. Looks like a top hat. I filed a flat spot on top of his head here, so it's a little bit of a jaunty angle, I suppose. So we'll solder those together. I'm going to make a jump ring out of this, and I'm going to make a scarf out of this piece of brass and wrap it around his neck, I think. So let's put the hat on first, and then put the scarf on, and then I think we'll solder the jump ring on. So I'm going to solder this ring to the top of his head, and then we'll run the bail through it and solder that close. I think I'm going to use medium solder for this one. Alright, put a little easy on there. Clean up. I'll come back and show you the final result. You can tell me which one you like, if any. Okay, well that was the 3 holiday themed projects. I hope you enjoyed those. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you go. That really helps to get my channel promoted. I'd love it if you check out my main YouTube channel page. I have 565-ish videos now, last I looked. I do 3 per week, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday, and one on Saturday, so there's quite a bit of content there. I try to change things up pretty frequently and do not only different kinds of projects, but different skill levels too. So I think you're almost certain to find something useful or fun over there. So check it out. Subscribe to my channel. There's no cost to that. It really does help the algorithm to find me when you do that kind of stuff. So thanks for that. Finally, don't forget to hit the video description down below. There's some important links there. If you're interested in finding out about my Patreon, that community I talked about earlier, there's multiple tiers of membership over there, and the bottom one just gets rid of YouTube advertisements, which is nice. But the other ones have some additional privileges like live streams and exclusive Patreon video tutorials and things like that. So it's really nice over there. Check it out. It might be something for you. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself some of those nice design idea sketchbooks or some other merch that I have over there. I find those really handy at drawing up my designs and keeping track of what I've made and what I want to make. So get yourself a few of those. They're great. And there's even a link to my ebooks if you want to get yourself either 2024's or 2023's ebooks. They are guides to all of the tutorials that I did in each of those years. There's a page for each tutorial, and it includes additional information about the video and a link to the video itself. It has a picture of the sketch I drew, a picture of the final outcome, a list of materials. It has a difficulty rating, and it also has some additional notes I made about the project, things I might have done differently, did I learn something useful from it, things of that nature. So it's a great way to have a whole bunch of projects right at your fingertips, and a really nice way to support my channel. So thanks in advance for that. All right, well, thanks for coming today. Take care. Happy silversmithing.